Sånn, da tenker jeg vi starter, og så får folk bare komme inn underveis. Jeg vil bare si hei og velkommen til webinar om sirkulær emballasje i samarbeid med Circular Packaging Cluster. Jeg heter Gro Haram og er bærekraftsansvarlig i NF&TA. Og i dag så skal vi gi en kort oppsummering av noen av funnene fra prosjektet vårt Sirkulære ressurser i Viken, som har vært et 2-årig prosjekt som har vært støttet av Viken fylkeskommune. Og så vil Jonne Hellgren, CEO og gründer av RePack, gi en presentasjon, og denne delen av webinaret vil bli gjennomført på engelsk. Og så blir det spørsmål og svar til slutt. Og så skal jeg bare si litt sånn praktisk, at webinaret det blir tatt opp og sendt til dere etterkant. Og så er det viktig at dere skrur av mikrofonen, slik at dere ikke forstyrrer foredragsholderne. Og dere kan også skru av kameraet deres. Og så er det lagt opp slik at dere kan stille spørsmål til slutt, gjerne da på engelsk selvfølgelig. Eventuelt så kan jeg forsøke å oversette hvis dere skriver på norsk i chatten for eksempel, eller så kan dere velge å skru på mikrofon og kamera og stille spørsmålene dere selv. Da ønsker jeg velkommen til Camilla Block Hellum i Circular Packaging Cluster. Velkommen, Camilla.
Takk, Gro, og god morgen. Ser alle skjermen?
Ja.
Ja. Mitt navn er Camilla Block Hellum, som sagt, og jeg har vært prosjektleder for det prosjektet her sammen med Gro og NF&TA, så dette er et klynge-til-klynge-prosjekt mellom Circular Packaging Cluster og NF&TA, som du nå nettopp sa. Og bare 2 ord om Circular Packaging Cluster, siden det er så mange fra den andre klyngen her i dag, så Circular Packaging Cluster jobber for å møte emballasjeverdikjedens utfordringer i overgangen til en sirkulær økonomi. Og vi eies av Emballasjeforeningen, har i dag 60 medlemmer og 15 emballasjeprosjekter i gang. Og et av de er jo det her, som heter Sirkulære ressurser i Viken, som webinaret er en del av. Så hvorfor har vi gått i gang med dette prosjektet? Circular Packaging Cluster jobber jo med mange næringer, mange som trenger emballasje, og i det tilfellet her så var ambisjonen å se på hvordan vi kan bidra sammen med NF&TA for tekstilnæringen for å få den mer sirkulær. Så det vi vet er at næringen er lite sirkulær også når det kommer til emballasje, og at netthandelen den øker. Den økte gjennom pandemien, og den øker hvert år, og med netthandel så øker også forbruket av emballasje. Men så kommer det nå regelverk fra EU som blir innført, og det skal Gro fortelle litt mer om etterpå, men det gjør at vi må ta tak i ting på en annen måte. Det vi har gjort i prosjektet, vi har jobbet egentlig ganske grundig med det, både begge klyngene, men også med en del av medlemmene våre. Så vi gikk ganske bredt ut i starten og så på hele verdikjeden, så på, prøvde å få litt oversikt og se på hvilken emballasje som blir brukt i verdikjeden. Så vi fikk en viss oversikt over emballasjetyper, mengder, blant annet med tall fra Grønt Norge. Og vi har sett på studier, nasjonale og internasjonale studier, og gjort oss en del læring fra det andre har forsket på. Og så har vi som sagt satt oss inn i de regulativene som kommer. Det som vi også har gjort er at vi har jobbet med mange medlemmer for å se på hvilke muligheter man kan ta tak i. Så vi har hatt intervjuer og befaringer, vi har vært på pakkelagre, vi har vært i butikk hos Northern Playground, og vi har hatt workshops med veldig mange fra hele verdikjeden i begge klyngene. Så det har gitt oss både ganske god oversikt, og så har vi sett en del muligheter som vi kan ta tak i. Så vi forsøkte å se på ha et litt sånn systemisk perspektiv, da, se på sammenhengene og se hvor vi kunne gå inn og gjøre en forskjell. Så vi valgte sirkulær emballasje for netthandel ganske tidlig. Og så har vi rekruttert partnere nå for å jobbe videre med dette prosjektet i som jeg skal si litt mer om senere. Akkurat dette prosjektet blir jo avsluttet nå, men arbeidet pågår videre etter hvert. Så du kan jo fortelle nå litt om hva vi fant ut, Gro, gjennom den prosessen.
Ja, si litt grann om hva vi så som dagens situasjon her i Norge, og satt opp noen punkter på det. For det vi ser at tekstilnæringen bruker mye emballasje, og en del av den kanskje også unødvendig og kan effektiviseres. Men det vi også opplevde var at merkevarene leter etter bedre emballasjeløsninger for å minske fotavtrykket sitt. Det ambisiøse folk der ute i denne næringen. Det vi så var at bølgepapp, polybags og e-commerce-poser i papp og papir de mest brukte plastemballasjetypene når det kommer til volum. Og som i andre produktkategorier så det med sammenblanding av emballasjekvaliteter og materialer, det gjør at det blir en utfordring å få på plass gode materialgjenvinningsløsninger. Det vi også opplever nå at forbrukerne jo i økende grad bekymret for plastens påvirkning på miljøet. Og det vi også så var at forbrukere og retailere oppfatter papp eller papir som mer miljøvennlig enn plast, og det jo ikke nødvendigvis alltid tilfellet, fant vi ut i løpet av prosjektet. Så kan du gå videre til neste slide. Så skal jeg bare si et par ord om regelverket. Som Camilla nevnte, så det jo et nytt regelverk på veien, og det en ny emballasjeforordning som ble vedtatt av Europaparlamentet nå 15. mars i år. Og den forventes å tre i kraft mot slutten av 2024, og så har den en implementeringsperiode på ca. 18 måneder. Og når den trer i full kraft, så vil denne nye forordningen, som på kort heter PPWR, den vil erstatte det gamle emballasjedirektivet. Så denne reguleringen som nå kommer inn, den har som hovedmål å forebygge og redusere emballasjeavfallet ved å begrense unødvendig emballasje. Da vil det også pålegges bruk av gjenbruks- eller påfyllingssystemer der det mulig. Og så for det andre så setter den som mål at emballasjen i EU skal være gjenbrukbar eller resirkulerbar på en økonomisk levedyktig måte innen 2030, så det jo ikke lenge til. Dette skal oppnås gjennom etableringen av klare designkriterier, gjennom panteordninger og standardiserte symboler og merking for materialgjenvinning. Og så skal forordningen bidra til økt bruk av gjenvunnet materiale, blant annet gjennom obligatoriske minimumsprosenter for gjenvunnet innhold i ny plastemballasje. Og regelverket det vil gjelde likt for alle aktører. Og så til slutt så har forordningen da selvfølgelig som mål å redusere bruken av jomfruelige materialer også. Så det var litt kort om regelverket. Så det vel neste slide som også min. Det vi også så og lærte oss i prosjektet var at det en god del barrierer der ute, men det også en god del muligheter, som jeg tenkte vi skulle ta dere gjennom nå. Det vi så var jo at det mangel på aksept og kunnskap om bærekraftige alternativer blant både forbrukere og aktører, sånn som det nå. Det mye en del arbeid som må til her for å øke aksepten og kompetansen. Det vi også ser at dagens pakkesystemer bygget for en lineær verdikjede, og det mangel på infrastruktur for å håndtere gjenbruksemballasjen. Og så det utfordrende å gjøre gjenbruksemballasjen økonomisk bærekraftig, for den ikke økonomisk bærekraftig for etter et betydelig antall rotasjoner. Det også vist seg å være litt vanskelig å oppskalere etter pilotstadiet av gjenbruksemballasje når man tester det. Og så ser vi også at det veldig viktig med samarbeid, også her for å løse utfordringene vi står overfor. Ombruksløsninger for emballasje krever også samarbeid på tvers av verdikjeden. Og det viktig at et sirkulært system etableres. Og så foregår det jo innovasjon, men det vanskelig for enkeltaktører å realisere innovasjonen sin gjennom verdikjeden uten samarbeid. Så ser vi mulighetene, som sagt, samarbeid nøkkelen. Det viktig å inngå i allianser. god kommunikasjon og kompetanseheving vil styrke og bygge disse gjenbrukssystemene. Og så som jeg fortalte i sted, regelverket det appellerer absolutt til gjenbruk av emballasje. Det kommer inn for fullt, og det er bare å gjøre seg klar. Og så ser vi også at forbrukere og merkevarer er klare for å ta mer bærekraftig valg. Vi tror også, basert på det vi har lest, at det finnes muligheter for konkurransedyktige forretningsmodeller, og vi må jobbe med både emballasjen og systemet parallelt for å få på plass en god løsning for gjenbruksemballasje. Da var det deg da, Camilla, på neste slide.
Ja. I thought maybe I should show some regard to our next speaker, which is speaking English. You've taken us through the key takeaways from our project, Gro, but I just want to make a short intro to Jonne. But our project has shown that there is a significant interest in circular packaging solutions within the textile industry. And the fact that there is so many of actors from the industry here today is proof of that. But circularity requires collaboration, as you said. This is not something one company can solve alone. And with the upcoming PPWR regulation, we think this will drive new solutions. And this is really giving us a hope that we can go from a linear model from take, make, dispose to a circular one, and where packaging can be in a closed loop system and continuously reused. So it's therefore, we are so happy now that we have managed to receive funding to go further with this project and with our collaboration work with NF&TA. And we've got funding from Stiftelsen Teknologiformidling to have a pilot in 2025. And in this pilot, we will test solutions for circular reusable packaging within Posten's logistics system. And if you're interested in learning more about that or participating, you can please reach out to us, one of us, and we would like to discuss it and involve you. But so far, we have partnered with Posten Bring, Swix, Brav, Northern Playground, Repasto, and RePack for this project. And Jonne Hellgren, we're happy to have you with us today and to hear more about your experiences from developing and implementing reusable packaging and circular systems. I'm pleased to hand over the screen to you, Jonne, founder and CEO of RePack.
Thank you so much, and very good to see so many of you here today. I'll just share this one, presentation mode. Oops, did I share it correctly? Present full screen. Now we can see it. I'm going to talk about what we do at RePack, and then I have quite a few case studies. I'm sure there is something for everyone in the audience in the case studies, ranging from reuse in deliveries, in internal use for furniture, for take backs, for electronics, different case studies with different companies in different regions. And then I'll finish off with short introduction to project that we are doing and starting in Sweden with Swedish online retailers and ecosystem of return infrastructure. So without further ado, I come from RePack. We are in the business of eliminating waste in the most efficient way possible, and usually this means reuse or at least sustainable materials, but really trying to go to the source of waste rather than solving everything just with recycling. Our focus is on delivery packaging, be it in e-commerce, where We replace single-use delivery packaging with reusable and returnable. For us Nordics, it's a very simple model that we are all familiar with, that we all use in the bottle return system. This is probably one of the reasons also why we received the Nordic Environment Prize for developing this service. So we believe that that model is so convenient, rewarding, cost efficient, that it should be applied to other forms of packaging, and starting with e-commerce in our case, but also reusable packaging in internal systems. And now one of the main focuses lately has been re-commerce, of course, growing so quickly, especially in clothing, where you already have an audience and user base that is very receptive to the idea of sustainable solutions. So reusable packaging and re-commerce go hand to hand very well, because you need to collect and deliver goods. And then the last one being kind of click and collect deliveries to physical stores with reusable packaging, eliminating the need for consumers to return. But I have a few case studies later on about all of these, with some results with the brands that we work with. What is driving reuse, which was just mentioned, PPWR legislation. In order to eliminate single-use packaging waste, market is not enough. We require legislation, and that is now happening at EU level. Before that, France is leading the pack. Already this year, 7% of packaging in France for companies that have over 50 million in revenues must be in reusable packaging. This will increase year on year. So France is really the market where reuse is happening first. And that is also why our focus at RePack is on the French market, and we work there with leading partners already. France legislation also means that it has the most developed infrastructure and most cost-efficient infrastructure for reuse. Then we also see retailers taking action. Amazon is working on reuse. We work with them during this year, and Amazon's goal is to implement reuse in their systems in Europe. They have the infrastructure to do everything, like in Amazon style. They take everything back in their own infrastructure. They put bags into circulation. And if Amazon does this, that pretty much means that other retailers must follow suit. So market is really happening. We have the last PPWR vote in the European Parliament next week, and we know the final details of the forthcoming legislation in Europe. We were the first ones in the market with this solution, already in the market over 10 years ago, so truly pioneering the space. Have worked in different setups, pilots, scale-ups with the biggest online retailers in Europe to the small ones across the board. But having learned from Zalando, Amazon, H&M, these have taught us what reusable packaging must be, not just in how it's taken back, but how it works in the warehouses, in the operations of these really super high volume operators that are shipping hundreds of thousands, even millions of orders a day. But like I said, there will be other case studies with different size customers and how companies are implementing reuse. But this is where we have learned and built our know-how so far, and are now using those learnings to scale it up, starting in France. Our main service is, actually I had a slide here that was hidden. I need to go back, sorry. not showing for some reason. That's weird. But this is going back to like, what is our background? We started as a design company, so we have designed reusable packaging for e-commerce, for sofas, for beds to be delivered by bikes. We have rental systems. We have rigid packaging that is protecting the goods. We have designed take-back solutions for electronics. Swappy, one of the highest growing tech companies in Europe, taking back iPhones with RePack packaging from consumers. Upcycled our reusable packaging together with fashion partners. Some of the RePacks have been selling at Selfridges for £200-300 in an upcycled fashion statement. We have designed delivery packaging for office furniture. The booth that I'm speaking at is delivered all over Europe in packaging that is designed by our team. Our first project, how we got started, was a trolley system that was foldable and stackable, designed for the Finnish post. Similar to Norway, Finland is a long country. Most of the stuff that is being transported around Finland is delivered from the south. Trucks go full to the northern Finland and come back empty. Transporting empty space in trolleys that are not stackable or foldable doesn't really make sense from a CO2 or cost perspective. So that was our first break into the world of delivery packaging, and resulted into us spending a lot of time in the warehouses of the Finnish Post and coming up with the idea of reusable packaging for e-commerce. And what is combining all of these is that our packaging is always smart. It has unique IDs. It can be tracked in different environments and connected with the consumer, so we know that where the packaging are circulating, how many times they are being used, what condition they are, who is using them, and who is not. So that's the background for the company, and now our focus is on reuse as a service, meaning that we are like the bottle return system. We are building an infrastructure to take back empty packaging in a convenient manner across Europe. But reuse as a service starts from packaging. It needs to be durable. It shouldn't carry and deliver any air, and it needs to be designed so that it fits into small size when empty. In our service, we take back the empty packaging, so you can return currently an empty RePack bag to any post box anywhere in Europe, free of charge. You just need to fold it and drop it. And then in different countries, we have return partners that can make the return cost lower and more convenient for the consumer. But big challenge for e-commerce is, and in Europe, when the PPWR comes into play, is the cross-border. This is also what we have already discussed in the Sweden project. How can we take bags and delivery boxes back from Norway or Finland that have been shipped by Stadium or Nelly.com or Gina Tricot from Sweden? And then finally, to make reuse as a service work, the packaging needs to be smart. It needs to have unique IDs. We know which ones have been returned, which ones have not, how to reward consumers with smart packaging, and how to connect with the consumers to make sure that the user experience is smooth and easy. Over the years, we have improved our packaging design several times, and the latest design is not what you see in this picture. It's currently being manufactured. We haven't had time to take yet pictures of it because we don't have it in our office, just the prototypes, and they don't look good enough. But in order to deliver reuse at scale, it starts in the warehouse. If we, like we have had so far, a packaging that is takes 3 times longer to pack than single use, that is simply not going to scale at Amazon or Zalando. So if I was giving this presentation 3 weeks from now after Christmas and New Year's, you would see our new packaging design that meets the needs of these high volume operations and is just as quick to pack as single use. And that's the first requirement of reuse going to scale. If it can't be packed quickly enough, it has no chance of entering the market and reaching the consumer. So that's the first bottleneck that we have now finally solved. Then the other one is that it needs to be secure, just like single-use packaging. It cannot be tampered with. You need to see if it's been opened, preferably branded. And this is a big dilemma for reuse, because ultimately you want the packaging to be reusable. And if the seal is broken, then how to make that reusable. We have solved that and will release the new design very early next year for everyone to see. And then finally, the return network. How to make it convenient, easy to return. Now it's based on the postal system, just like in the Norwegian project you have there with Boston, individual returns to individual post boxes. But if we're going to scale and thinking that 40% of all e-commerce deliveries in 2030 will be reusable, so this will then change, just like we have the bottle returns. Nobody returns one can or one bottle. You return multiple at once, several bags full of bottles. This is what we believe will happen with reusable packaging in general. It's for e-commerce, for different transports, for takeaways. There is an infrastructure where multiple returnable packages will be returned at once. And of course, in order for this to happen, we need infrastructure partners to make that happen so that it's convenient for the consumer and cost efficient for the operators to return the reuse. Currently, our European return map looks like this. So everywhere else, basically, except in France and Sweden, you have the mail return system, and it means that when it's returned by mail, for example, from Norway, it goes back to our hub in Estonia. If you return it in Sweden, we collect in Sweden. If you return it in France, it's returned in France. This map will look very different in 2030. Like in the Swedish project, we have locker service providers acting as return points. We have Early Bird, who is bringing you the morning newspaper, acting as one of the return points. We have Courier Bring as a courier company, and then we have ICA as a grocery store partner to make the returns as convenient as possible for the consumers. And then, smart packaging, one of the important things that it needs to have a unique ID, it can be scanned, and that means that the brand can really connect with their customers. The point of unboxing, which is the blind spot of e-commerce at the moment, nobody really sees what happens at that point, and we make that happen as well to enhance the consumer experience of shopping online. And that we see in the feedback from consumers across the board: high net promoter score, high customer satisfaction, and very few consumers are still exposed to reuse, so it's something that can be a wow experience. Without having a positive environmental impact, this wouldn't make any sense, and this is hard enough to build something that will change how packaging is used. If it didn't have the environmental impact, I wouldn't have spent the last 10 years of my professional life to build this. But the point of this graph is that return rate the one that really matters. If the return rate is, let's say, 50%, then it's unlikely that reuse makes sense. And then also distance. The return distance of packaging also matters. And then it matters what you compare it to. If you compare it to hard cardboard boxes that are heavy, have a lot of material, then the environmental impact is almost positive after one reuse. Then if you compare it to really lightweight plastic bag, like in this table, then the return rate really must be quite high in order to reach a positive impact on the CO2 level. This study is done by Utrecht University, commissioned by Fashion for Good, and it's using data from reuse cases from H&M, Zalando, Otto, and us over the years that we have worked with them. So now on to some case studies of the kind of the basics. We usually get started with a small pilot. The smaller the pilot, the better the likelihood is for successful implementation. Royal Canin, part of Mars Group, delivering pet food subscriptions in France. So every month you get your pet food subscription delivered in a reusable packaging. Started with a test, delivered 200 orders to their customers, interviewed them, talked to them one-to-one, made sure that RePack works in the warehouse operation. And based on those results, what are the changes needed in the warehouse? What are the changes needed in the IT infrastructure? And what do the customers think? They made the decision that they start shipping all their orders in reusable packaging, but only after the French legislation changed, because that made it cost efficient, and the cost of reuse was comparable to single use for Royal Canin. So they didn't do it because it was the most sustainable solution. They did it because it cost them the same as single use, but improved the consumer loyalty and can be also used in sustainability communication. Currently, Royal Canin is shipping all their subscription food in France in RePack. And what we see there with consumers is quite interesting. And we are really creating a habit. The return rate for Royal Canin is going up every month. People have been using this now for 2 years, so every month you get your RePack, and we see that the return rate is increasing month to month. Now Royal Canin is expanding this to their store flagship deliveries as well. So not just subscription, but all the orders from Royal Canin will go in reusable packaging on the French market. What most brands do, though, is that once they do a pilot, they offer RePack as an option for the consumer to choose. And sometimes, well, they decide if they charge a fee for it or not, and what that fee can be. We have brands who take €0 and brands who take €5 and anything in between. Price really matters. We see that €2, €3 is really a checkpoint where people start opting out from reuse. But also the consumer segment matters. Asket, a sustainable fashion brand from Sweden, offers reuse as an option. 30% of their customers choose and pay for it without even having any reward for doing so. Gina Tricot, on the other hand, this has the same price point, offers a reward, but fast fashion consumers are not that keen on paying extra for sustainability as the Asket sustainable minded consumers are. But with reuse as an option, it means that the brand can recover all the costs that come from implementing reusable packaging and decide what the price would be. Most brands also offer a reward. So when you return your RePack, maybe you get your next delivery for free. Maybe you get loyalty points. Maybe you get 10% of next purchase. Up to you to decide how to reward your customers and what really works for you and your brand. Another increasing trend is internal shipments. Denne here is an example that uses RePack for samples and shipments between warehouse to warehouse. Internal sales for the staff in RePack, making it visible and making their own staff aware of what reusable packaging means. How does it work, so they can communicate that further. And in the PPWR from 2030, it's mentioned that 100% of domestic transport for brand between their own warehouses or between their own stores must be in reusable packaging. So basically all the deliveries to the stores from the warehouse must be in reusable packaging. This is one way of beginning to learn what that means for different brands. Click and collect, another one. Decathlon in Canada started shipping in RePack from warehouse to their physical stores. And this is a trash-free delivery. So consumer doesn't get the RePack at all. They are communicated that this is a trash-free delivery. Please bring your own packaging. They only get the goods. RePack is used to deliver to the physical store and then returned to Decathlon warehouse. And this really proved us that our packaging is very durable. Now these results were after 12 months. We had 1% of damaged bags. Over 30,000 single mailers were saved, and the bags were going back on average 3-4 times per month. So you have about 50 cycles per bag over 12 months. Now this has been running for over 2 years, and we have had no report of any further damage to the bag. So really we have a product that is designed to last hundreds of cycles. But in click and collect also, not just the sustainability action, but also reducing cost. Decathlon pays a monthly fee for the packaging, and the more cycles they get, the cheaper the price per use for Decathlon becomes. Then another example is empty returns to stores. Gina Tricot, for example, in the Nordics, you can order from Gina Tricot, choose RePack, pay for it, and return it to their physical store. Gina Tricot has made good. It's a good example of communication, the importance of communication in reuse. When we did the similar pilot with Weekday, we only had 5% returns to stores, whereas Gina Tricot reaches 30%. And that way also creates foot traffic to the stores. This is also, Gina Tricot is one of the partners in the Sweden project as well. And our goal there, one of the ideas that we are looking at is at, for example, if you purchase something from Nelly.com, that you could return the empty RePack to a Gina Tricot store. And in the pilots that we work with, we will find out whether consumers are actually willing to do this. Sofas. Delivering sofas, packing sofas is expensive, time-consuming. So we did a project with Finnish furniture manufacturer where we designed a specific durable polypropylene, same material as the blue IKEA bag, but a bit larger in size. A delivery packaging for sofas that was delivered to customers' home, unpacked at home, and then taken back by the delivery guys. More ergonomic, better to carry, quicker to pack. We reduced the packing time by 50%, reducing material use in sofa deliveries. The only problem was that the delivery guys liked the packaging so much that we didn't have tracking implemented, so most of the bags were lost, and I guess they are at people's home when they use those for winter storage of their garden stuff. Learning was that without tracking, reuse very quickly can become single use. Circular packaging is another that this is really increasing at the moment with re-commerce. With Finnish delivery company Matkahuolto, we have a service that was tested that when you enter the Matkahuolto store, you can purchase a reusable packaging instead of single use. Instead of a box or a bag that is used once or thrown away, you purchase a RePack. If you sell something online, it's delivered to the person that you have sold the goods in a RePack, and then they can either reuse that or return it to a Matkahuolto store. Up to them to decide. Idea was to reduce the need of single-use packaging here, but also generate a new revenue stream from sustainable packaging for the logistic company. Rentals is another one where reuse really makes sense. With Levi's and Gunny, you could rent jeans and a t-shirt for a week. Delivered to you in a RePack, you keep the stuff for a week. If you decide to keep them, you purchase them. If you don't, you return those back to Gunny and Levi's in a reusable packaging. We branded this to make and really focused on the communication so that the consumer understands that it's a reusable packaging, not just a clothing rental, and made it 100% circular. Rental is also increasing, still quite small, but we work with different companies, especially in the French Alps, where you can rent your skiing gear and skiing clothes or hiking clothes for a week, delivered to you in a RePack into the hotel, and once you're done, you just put them back into RePack, and it's collected when your trip ends. Electronic deliveries. So most of the examples so far have been with fashion and soft items that don't require protection. But then some products do require protection or a bit more sturdiness, and electronics, modems, digiboxes are an example that we worked with the Finnish telecoms company. We used an upcycled trade fair carpet to deliver modems to consumers, and you could return the same empty packaging to Elisa store, physical store, reducing the impact and making those deliveries. That the challenge was that the material that we chose for this was, even though it's upcycled, it was quite difficult to source and expensive to make. So while the reuse makes sense in the cycle, the manufacturing price proved to be too high in this case. Upcycling expired RePacks. So not every RePack will live to be for 50 users or 100 users. We did an upcycling project with Aalto, a French-based brand, who used RePack to deliver online deliveries and then upcycled them to real fashion statements, items that were sold at Galeries Lafayette and Selfridges in 2019-2020. Launched in Paris Fashion Week with great publicity, and also proved that I don't understand anything about fashion when people were paying £200-300 for upcycled RePack. There are different applications. This is one how Scandinavian Finnish outdoor retailer has implemented RePack. They first started offering RePack as an option, and then included it so that if you get a free delivery for €79, you get free RePack for 99, and have increased that value of free RePack from year on year. Point being that they want to offer more sustainable, better user experience to their best customers. And data also proved that this managed to increase their average order value, and those customers who have high average order value also had a higher net promoter score. Takebacks, I mentioned the Swappy case there already. Other takebacks we've worked with Philippa Core, with Finlayson. Finlayson took back jeans from consumers, so you were shipped a flat letter size RePack to your home. Came by post, by mail. Bag size was 60 liters. You would put old jeans into it, return to Finlayson, who made these traditional rug carpets out of those, and upcycled the denim material to rug carpets and sold those in with a good margin as well. But using reusable packaging when it's flat and letter size when shipping to a consumer makes the returning quite easy. If you don't live next to a Finlayson store, you order a empty RePack from the store, put the jeans in there and return it to a collection point or to a post box. Really easy take back system. So to end my presentation, let's talk about the Sweden project. So we have Circa Sweden. The goal is to prepare the Swedish e-commerce to PPWR, requiring 40% of e-commerce deliveries in reusable packaging from 2030. We have good partners, both in retail, so Stadium, Nelly.com, Plick is a e-commerce player, and Gina Tricot. And then on the receiving end, the infrastructure of takebacks, we work with Instabee for the lockers, ICA, obviously for the grocery store network that they have. Bring is also a partner, and Early Bird, which is the morning newspaper. And the goal of main goal is to find out, what do consumers prefer? Would they have a Bring courier to pick it up? Would they rather return it to locker service, or with their bottles to ICA, or to Stadium directly, or to Gina Tricot? So how to make it convenient is really the key to reach the required return rates. And then the second objective is to find out what are the costs associated with different return points based on the volume that they attract. And then for the brands and also for the return points, how to make it rewarding. Should there be a deposit system? Should there be a money of next purchase, loyalty points? What makes consumers tick? So different retailers are looking at it from different perspectives. We've not set as to what the exact pilots are yet. Just yesterday we had our first meeting and start in January. But all the brands have different ideas. Obviously, Plick focusing on re-commerce, Stadium having larger size items that you simply cannot fit the packaging into letter size when empty. So that requires packaging design, new type of packaging, and then a return point. For example, shoes, skis or bikes. How would those deliveries work in reusable packaging? And once we've decided early next year as to what the finalized first pilots are, we have the operational setup. How does reuse impact the warehouse operations? How does reuse impact the tech environment in the pilot phase, and then going forward? RePack's role here is both act as a packaging provider, software, and then we take the empty packaging back, refurbish that, and put it back into circulation. So reverse logistics is another one. We don't want these Sweden bags and boxes going back to Estonia. They need to be refurbished in Sweden to make the cycle as cost efficient and sustainable and quick as possible. And then a lot of focus on the user experience, end user communication. How testing different types of communication to consumers, different rewards, and then talking to users, finding out feedback, what works, what not. First phase next spring, second phase after the summer, based on the learnings of the first phase. So second phase is still a bit open as to what we are going to do because we haven't done the first phase learnings yet, but on a high level idea is that some of the pilots will succeed, some of them will fail, and then with those that succeed, when we plan, okay, what are the requirements to going into scale in the cycle management, on a software level, end user communications, and in the operational level in the warehouses, and then also expanding that to other Nordic countries. Sweden is the hotspot. That's where the most deliveries in Nordic countries come from. How do we solve cross-border here? We cannot have different types of packages going to Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. It has to be one unified solution that is returnable from any of these countries as conveniently as possible. So that was my presentation. I hope there was something for everyone to take home, to think about how this could work for their operational setup. And yeah, let's find out what are the first thoughts that come into your mind about this one. Thank you.
Thanks. Wow, that's a very impressive presentation, Jonne, and all the things that you've managed to accomplish. I'm very impressed, and I was really curious about the take-back system as well. I'd love to hear more about that at a later stage. But yeah, I see we have about 7 minutes now for questions, and I don't know if anyone in the room has any questions for RePack and Jonne. If not, I know that Camilla has a few questions she'd like to ask you. So yeah, Camilla, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I have lots of questions. It's so inspiring to see what all that you've done, really, for so many years. So it's really, really inspiring. But I was just thinking about the economy part, because we've read and learned that reusable packaging has to be robust, and with the robustness you get a higher price per unit. So how and what needs to change to get an economy out of it to be competitive to the singular packaging? You said something about it, but
Mostly,
still.
it's mostly about the cost of returns. Cost of returns dictate what the price that is required to make the cycle work. And for example, in France, the La Poste has decided that they have developed a return channel just for reusable packaging, French Post, and have managed to reduce the cost of returning an empty packaging in France to 50 cents per packaging, which is good. It needs to still go lower, but this is a return as a single item. And when I was talking to Finnish Post about this price point, they told me that a Finnish postman will open a locker for 50 cents, and that's it. So the French have really focused on building an infrastructure that helps reuse go to scale. Other nations and postal operators are watching closely, and some are developing similar solutions, but French are really leading this to make the reuse to become cost efficient and comparable with single use. And this is what we now see in France, that especially with cardboard boxes, reuse and cardboard is almost 1-to-1.
Yeah, so it's major. It is some major changes that has to be done in the system.
Yes.
Actually. Yeah.
And then in closed loop, when you have, like in the case of Decathlon and Click and Collect, you know that the return rate is pretty much 100. So they have the return logistics happening already between their warehouses and stores. Every day they deliver and collect stuff from there anyway. So reusable packaging goes in that delivery system, internal delivery system. And then in order to reach cost efficiency, it's about maximizing durability of the packaging.
I had a question around the packaging too, more practical one. What is actually happening when you receive the returned packages? Do you have to clean them? What do you have to do to make it ready for a new rotation?
Well, most are used to ship dry goods, soft goods, clothes. So we don't wash them.
No.
It would be an overkill. We remove the labels, remove the stickers, and this requires a bit of design so that it's easy to remove them, because you want to minimize manual jobs, and over time you need to automate the refurbishment. Currently it's done manually, but in order to scale to 40% of all deliveries, it means hundreds of millions, maybe billions of e-commerce deliveries in reusable packaging. That cannot be manual.
No, I see. I don't know if anyone else has some questions.
No, I can't see anything in the chat, so I think people are overwhelmed by all the exciting information that you shared with us. Jonne. I was just thinking, I thought it was really funny that upcycled packaging that you created as well. And what we learned in the project is that there's a fine balance between making the reused packaging really cool and sexy so that the customers keep it. And then, is that a difficult balance, do you think, to find design a packaging that's kind of cool enough and not too cool
enough, but you don't want to keep. That's the designer's brief. It needs to be good enough, but not too good.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
We have experience of that. We've used old advertising billboards in one of our earlier designs, and the return rate was really poor because people wanted to keep them. They look cool. They were all unique pieces. But that wasn't the only problem with that material. Is PVC. It's toxic waste, so we quickly faded that out. But then another learning was that the packaging must be good, but not too good.
No.
Okay, but thank you so much. I really enjoyed this webinar, Jonne, and we'll send. Hopefully, can we share your presentations?
Absolutely,
that's fantastic. Send it to me, and we'll send it to everyone afterwards with the recording of the webinar as well. Thank you so much for today, and a really interesting webinar. Thank you, Jonne. Cheers. Bye.
Takk for i dag.